So, in this third lecture on Rabindranath Tagore's My Reminiscences, we are going to look at a few more quotations, and hopefully, um, with these three or four more quotations, we'll be able to complete chapter 1 of Rabindranath Tagore's My Reminiscences. The lectures that will follow for chapter 2 through chapter 15 are going to be not this detailed. We're going to look at certain instances, and then we are again and again going to look back at chapter 1, that is the one we're currently studying, and we're going to see how the things that he later states, the incidents from his life that he talks about in the later chapters, how can we fall back on chapter 1 and in the light of the theorizations or the way memory and life's history is understood in chapter 1. How is that understanding helpful for us to see the subsequent chapters and the subsequent incidents from Tagore's life? Right? So, with that in mind, let's begin this third lecture. So, the quotation that I'm going to begin with today is as follows: though the attempt to gather precise history from memory's storehouse may be fruitless, there is a fascination in looking over the pictures, a fascination which cast a spell on me. All right, so we know that life's memories are different from life's history, right? We also know that Tagore was approached by someone. Who that someone is, we do not know, but this someone told Tagore that, well, you should write an autobiography of sorts. You should write a book where you account for the events of your life from your childhood until now. So then Tagore tells us that the fact that this person came to him and told him that you should consider writing an autobiography, that gave him an opportunity, right? Like that opened doors to explore his own memories, and it is in an attempt to explore his memories that he realized that life's memories and the history of a person's life are different. He also realized, as I have stated in the first two lectures, that while history is an attempt to accurately document a person's life's events, or for that matter, any event, right? In comparison, life's memories is just a canvas on which pictures are painted, right? And those pictures may not be an authentic representation of what life actually was like. And I gave you several examples of a trip with a vehicle whose color is what people debate about after 10 years. And then I compared it with historical documentation, which would have been in the form of a video or a photograph, etc., etc. So some of the things we have established until now will become the base of our further discussions. So Tagore here says that the moment that this person approached him and he got this opportunity to explore his own memories, not only did he realize that it is not possible to precisely construct a person's history from memory storehouse, but more importantly, and this is what we are going to focus on here, is that there is a fascination in looking over the pictures, a fascination which cast a spell on Tagore. So in other words, Tagore at this moment, he has realized, by the time he is writing this paragraph, he has realized that memories and history are different, and if someone tries to accurately create a proper history, then that cannot be done from memory. You cannot reliably look back at memory and construct a proper history from it because of the distortions that memory brings, right? However, Tagore says, irrespective of whether what I draw from memory is authentic historically or not, there is a fascination in looking over the pictures that are stored in memory's canvas. So understand that today, in today's lecture, we are making a significant break from the discussions we had on lecture 1 and 2. So to give you a recap, in the first two lectures, I predominantly spoke about how life's history and life's memory are different. But in today's lecture, we are going to talk about how, irrespective of whether life's history and memory are similar or different. There is a fascination which took over Tagore, and it is from this fascination of looking over those pictures in memory's canvas that he writes this book, My Reminiscences. So this gives you an important answer. If the question is why has Tagore written his autobiography, or what is the point of having written this book, then you have an answer. Not only do you know that life's history and life's memories are different, but you also know that Tagore was fascinated by the thought of exploring that gallery in his mind's canvas. The gallery which may not be authentic but is fascinating to look at nonetheless, right? So the point today, or the locus of the third lecture is this: the fascination in looking over pictures in memory's canvas, as contrasted with the fact that life's memories and life histories are different. So let's now move on and look at yet another quotation. So he asks, was this interest, and by interest he's talking about the interest or fascination of looking at life's memories, right, at the canvas which he mentioned early on in the text. So was this interest aroused within me solely by a natural affection for my own past? So this is a question he begins with, and then he says, some personal feeling of course there must have been, but the pictures had also an independent artistic value of their own, right? So once again, note that today we have moved past the difference between life's memories and life's history. Rather, today we are focusing on Tagore's notions on recording one's memories. What does Tagore think is the value of recording an individual's memories? Is there any value to it? And what kind of value does it have? Is it a value solely derived from the fact that the person who is writing the autobiography has experienced all of this? Or is there any independent artistic value to exploring life's memories? Which of these is it, right? So he then says, there is no event in my reminiscences worthy of being preserved for all time. So here he makes an important confession, and this is a confession you must make note of, and again, if necessary in your answers, do put it in, right? So what is this confession? He says, there is no event in my reminiscences worthy of being preserved for all time. Remember, he has just said, he had just asked himself, am I exploring my own past because of my affection for all the incidents that happened in my past? Or is there any independent artistic value? After asking this question, he says that there is nothing in my past which is, worthy of being preserved for all time. Nothing happened in my life that should be kept in a museum, or that should be recorded in a book and kept in a library. A library is a sort of museum, right? So then why is he recording? If Tagore, easily the greatest author in modern times, in modern India, definitely in modern Bengal, if he thinks that his life is not worthy of being preserved, then why is he doing it? Right? You get the question? This is the important question that we are going to answer. The answer is that he's doing this because he believes that there is an independent artistic value in exploring those memories, right? He goes on and says, but the quality of the subject is not the only justification for the record. What one has truly felt, if only it can be made sensible to others, is always of importance to one's fellow men. So he says that, well, it is true that I did have personal affection in exploring my own memories. It is also true that there is an independent artistic value to those memories, right? They have a value in the form of art. They may not have value in the sense that Tagore's memory may not help you or me in a way that we construct ourselves, in a way that we cultivate our lives in a certain way. Tagore's memories may not be valuable for a conqueror, right? Tagore's memories may not be valuable to most people, for that matter, but memories are not the only thing that we are focusing on today. We are focusing on the artistic value that memories have, right? So make this distinction very early on, and it will be easier to read this text. Then he goes on to say that not only is the memory important, right? Not only is the quality of the subject or the quality of the subject in relation to the memory, that is not the only thing which is important. Now, if you explore your own memory, you are going to remember maybe hundreds of incidents. But when writing an autobiography, you are certainly not going to put all of those, right? You are going to select a few. And how are you going to select? On the basis of quality of subject. That is what Tagore says here. The quality of the subject is not the only justification for a record, right? So among hundreds of incidents, he had to pick up a few based on the quality of the subject, right? Or what value that particular incident had to the person recording, or perhaps what value that particular incident will have to readers generally. So finally, he says in this quotation, what one has truly felt, if only it can be made sensible to the others, is always of importance to one's fellow men. So the concluding statement says that it effectively means that irrespective of what the autobiographer or the person who is recording has felt, if that memory can be made sensible to others, if others can, read and enjoy that memory, only then is it important. So if hundreds of events have happened in Tagore's life, there is no need to record all of those incidents. First of all, the record will be on the basis of quality of the incident, quality of the subject, as he says, but also whether that memory, that particular incident, can be made sensible to others. So in other words, you might say that Tagore's autobiography or My Reminiscences is not a collection of his entire life. It is a collection of selected incidents from Tagore's life which he believes have artistic value. That is number one. Number two, which he thinks are rich in quality enough to be justified as having a record. And number three, whether he believes that these memories, when he records them, can be made sensible to his readers. So you see, there are at least three important criteria that Tagore has in mind while recording chapters 2 and then all the chapters from there, right? Chapter 2 to 15 in your case, as far as your syllabus is concerned. So hopefully you have understood these three important factors that Tagore has in mind while writing his autobiography. Okay, so finally I will look at two more quotations before ending chapter 1. The first one is, if pictures which have taken shape in memory can be brought out in words, they are worth a place in literature. Okay, so clearly you see Tagore has a particular definition of literature in mind, and here when he talks about literature, he is obviously talking about the written form of literature, right? And you already noted that he has three important criteria before selecting a memory and then placing it in his book, My Reminiscences. And he says that if those pictures from a person's past have taken shape in memory, can be brought out into words, they are definitely worth the place in literature, right? So having the memory is not enough. Having an interest in writing literature is not enough, but there must be the capability of bringing those pictures out of the memory and then converting or translating them into words. That is what is important here. And if that can be done, if those pictures can actually paint 1,000 words, then they are definitely worth the place in literature, right? So here Tagore provides us with a justification of what is to follow, right? So almost all of the quotations, all of the excerpts that I have quoted for you from chapter 1 are of relevance theoretically, right? You might question theoretically. When I say theoretically, I'm talking about questions such as why has he written this? On the basis of what did he make his selections? Is this actually literature? So these are all theoretical questions, all of which I believe Tagore has, if not answered, but then if not answered, he has definitely addressed all of these questions in chapter 1, in the introductory chapter. So one last quote we will look at, and then from the next lecture we will move on into the incidents, actual incidents. The final quote is, "It is as literary material that I offer my memory pictures," right? So you see, all this theorization comes full circle here. It is as literary material that I offer my memory pictures. To take them as an attempt at autobiography would be a mistake. Okay, so one of the earliest confessions that he makes in this work is that please do not consider my book, My Reminiscences, as an autobiography, because it is not an actual autobiography. It is a work of literature that I am attempting. And what is the source of this literature? The source of this literature is my memory pictures, which I have tried to translate into words. So he essentially has pictures in his memory, and you already know those pictures are distorted, not proper documentation. However, he says there is a pleasure in exploring those pictures, and it is also pleasurable for him to exercise translating those pictures into words, which is why he believes they are worth a place in literature, and which is also why he warns his readers at the very beginning that to consider his memories as an autobiography would be a mistake. In such a view, these reminiscences would appear useless as well as incomplete, right? So go back to what I said in the previous quotation, right? Rather, what he said in the previous quotation, where he pointed out that the quality of subject is important to him. And while there were hundreds, probably thousands of incidents which he did remember. See, if you read My Reminiscences, you will notice that Tagore is a person with an extraordinary memory, perhaps an eidetic memory. What is an eidetic memory? Find out, right? Eidetic memory is something only a very few handful of people have. And one might argue that Tagore is someone with eidetic memory. He perhaps he surely was. The point is that despite having or despite remembering thousands and thousands of incidents, he had to make a choice, and that choice was a literary choice, right? And hence it was a literary, and since it was a literary choice, the choice itself was made on the basis of quality of subject, right? It was also made on the basis of whether it would make sense or it would be of any value to the reader. Therefore, you cannot exactly call My Reminiscences an autobiography, because from the perspective of an autobiography, if you were to look at My Reminiscences from the strict definition of an autobiography, then My Reminiscences, Tagore's record of his memories, would definitely appear useless as well as incomplete, right? So with these theoretical, undertones and overtones certainly in mind, read the rest of the text, and as you will surely see that what follows is select incidents from his life, and the early chapters are incidents from his childhood, from his infancy, and then onwards he moves on talking about the later years of his life. So from chapter 1 to 15 is what you have in your syllabus, and I would again advise you all to keep in mind that Tagore himself thinks that this work is not an autobiography, right? So while you are reading reference material for this text, some of the reference material I have sent you, such as what is an autobiography, right? Keep in mind that you need to be able to criticize as to whether Tagore is correct in saying that his work is not an autobiography. So all of those critical questions you have to keep in mind while reading this text, because if you keep those in mind while reading, you will probably be able to highlight and find the answers while reading the text, right? So we stop here, and this ends our classes this ends our lectures on chapter 1, and this will also enable us to quickly browse through chapter 2, from chapter 2 to 15.